ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Fresh from North Carolina. Welcome back. It's The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I literally got home about a couple hours ago and I had to take care of a few things, and then I ran in here because we didn't have a show yesterday. I was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, alongside of Luke Creasy. I want to congratulate my friend, my brother, Luke Creasy, winning the National Sports Media Association Sports Writer of the Year. And I won the Sportscaster of the Year. So that was a exciting trip to be able to go down to Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the awards banquet, get to spend some time with Luke, and none of us brought laptops. That is surprising. Luke did not have a laptop. I didn't bring a laptop. So what happens? You know, Marshall hires Morgan Zirkle while we're gone, and I'm sitting there seeing that on Twitter. I did have my phone, and I'm seeing that happen, and I immediately text the softball SID, and I'm like, David, seriously? You wait till I'm out of town and Luke's out of town to announce that you have a new softball coach? And the response was, well, the presser's coming up on Friday, so you're good. Still, we're out of town, both of us, and Morgan Zirkle gets hired as the new softball coach. So what's been the reaction so far? Do you like the hire, bringing someone back to represent Thundering Herd at the next level, trying to continue what Megan Smith-Lyon has been able to accomplish? You bring someone in, you elevate them to head coach status, and they have a lot of history with Marshall. You know, is that a good vibe, or did some of you want to see Marshall maybe go outside of the Marshall family, bring someone new in, sort of similar to bringing a Megan Smith-Lyon type coach, you know, with a, I don't want to say pedigree, but a track record of success at maybe, I don't want to say a lower program, but maybe a different university. Bring someone in like that. So what's been the vibe on that? I'm a little out of the loop, so I'm asking for your help on that one today. 304-396-TALK is the text line, 304-396-8255. So that's our text line to be a part of the program today. I've got a lot to get into today, and a lot of it's going to be just cool stuff that I was able to experience and do. And I'm going to try to keep it as sports-related as possible to share with you, just because that's what the purpose of the weekend was for me. I got to go to Wake Forest. I got to see a lot of the facilities at Wake Forest. Let me tell you, Wake Forest does it right. Absolutely does it right. So I'll get into that, but I got to see their football facility. I didn't get to go to the arena. They're doing some things in the arena, the basketball arena, so they didn't have a chance to do that. But I got to go not only to the baseball park and check that out. I got to go to the football stadium and check a lot of that out. Not everything, but they took us up to the President's Suite and got to see some of that, and also got to see a little bit of the campus. They have just a little over 5,000 students, and they're the smallest Autonomy 5 school, but yet they have such beautiful facilities. So I'll describe those to you. I'm looking forward to telling you how they do things. One thing that really interested me, and we can talk about this now, the way they fund things, and I don't know if this would work at Marshall, but they have to have 110% committed before they break ground. They have to have 110%. And I think they have to have, and I'll double check this, I think they have to have 80% on hand before they even begin. And they have a brand that they have to adhere to. There's no getting around it. They have a brand, a campus brand, a Wake Forest brand. So facilities can't just look like any old thing. It's got to fit into the brand. So I'll describe that. I'll talk to you about that. But I want to hear from you. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our text line to be a part of this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. But getting back to Morgan Zirkle just for a second. So congratulations to her, first and foremost. We're going to hear from her on Friday. I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more I'm curious what it was about Morgan that made Christian Spears go, all right, we've got to elevate her. This is the next step. We've got to elevate her. Now, some other things that happened as well, but staying with what the Zirkle story is, we're going to have the presser at 10. We're going to go and attend that. She was at Marshall from 2014 to 17, so she's been gone for a little bit. She represented Team USA. She played professionally. She spent the last 4 seasons at Miami of Ohio. And so she definitely has some experience, not head coaching experience, but she does have experience at different levels, different facets of softball, be it Team USA, be it professional, be it college as an assistant. So she has a background. This isn't new to her. She just hasn't been elevated yet until now to head coach. So that's going to be new for her. But as far as coaching a team, she's done that. As far as playing on a team, she's done that. As far as playing at a high level professionally in women's softball, she's done that. And so we'll find out what it was that maybe put her over the edge as far as trying to figure out which candidate that you had in mind should be the next softball coach at Marshall University. So she's definitely going to at least have a lot of fans. If you remember her on the field, you remember her level of play, what she brought to the team, what she meant to the team, she's going to have fans. Now, you're going to have to translate that into success, and you're getting a program depending on which players stay and which players go. And there have been a couple of players that follow Megan Smith-Lyon. I understand. Is this going to be a program where maybe just a brief transition and you can continue to build upon what Megan Smith-Lyon was able to do? Or are you going to have to start thinking about, depending on what the transfer portal looks like, what the players coming in that want to remain coming in look like, and the players that want to stay, what does this team look like? Is this going to be something where it's a simple, let's transition, we got a new coach, let's continue what Megan Smith-Lyon built here, and let's go Herd? Or is it going to be, all right, we're going to have to transfer a little bit of patience into the fan base here, because we're going to have to replace a really good coach, and we're going to have to replace some good players, and it might not be as easy of a transition. And this is a first-time head coach, and there are a lot of first-time head coaches that will do fantastic, and there are a lot of first-time head coaches that are a little bit over their head. So that's always going to be a fair and valid criticism. Is the coach that has been elevated to head coach ready for the position, and what will they do with it? And so that's the hope. You have hired Megan Smith-Lyon's replacement and Morgan Zirkle. Is she going to be able to maintain and take it a step further? And maintaining is good. Absolutely, maintaining is good. Marshall softball has been very consistent, very good. So maintaining is good. But can Marshall take it to the next level? Can it elevate itself where it's starting to get into more and more NCAA tournaments? Can you see the program making those footsteps to advance? So that's going to come up on Friday. Interested to hear what it was about Morgan that Christian Spears wanted and saw and decided to elevate her to a head coach at Marshall University. So our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And, of course, Texter writes in and reminds us that Bob Pruitt was defensive coordinator at Wake Forest when his son Rod and the Texter's sister were married. So congratulations there. Wake is a great place. Their football facility is fantastic, and it's well kept. I'll get into that next break, but it's well kept. I was amazed. I showed up on this bus tour with other sports writers and sportscasters and some students from Wake Forest as well. They were interning at the event I was at this weekend and talking to them, and they were full of life and energy, and it's a private school, and you look at the campus, and it's fantastic. I can't say enough how much I enjoyed Wake Forest and talking to their staff, getting an idea of what they do, how they do it. This is college. Wake Forest is college athletics. They don't do NIL. That's not really a thing. They stressed to us when we were talking to them that if you're looking for really big NIL opportunities and deals, that's your thing, don't come here. Now, the value of a Wake Forest education, that's immense. So we'll talk about that. We'll get some of your thoughts in as well. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back. It's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Fresh back from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where the National Sports Media Association Convergence Summit and Awards Banquet was held this weekend. And I was fortunate to be with Luke Creasy as we were recipients of their Sports Writer and, for me, Sportscaster of the Year honors for 2022. It was a privilege and honor to be down there, and it was really a thrill to be able to share it with Luke, who has become really a good friend of mine, and I respect him professionally in so many ways. It was a treat to be a part of that. It kind of set up where we're at on the show today. I just got back. It was a fun trip, though. It was hot and humid. I'll say that. It was hot and humid, but at the same time, Wake's a pretty cool place. Winston-Salem's a pretty cool place, and I got a chance to tour a lot of the facilities as part of the event at Wake Forest. So I got to meet a gentleman by the name of Mike Muse. He is the general manager of the basketball program, but he's involved with a lot of things with Wake Forest, and he was very kind to be a part of the tour, and we got to talk to several people from Wake Forest. And, of course, good friends. So I have to pass this message along. So if someone would help me out, because I figure this would be the quickest way. He wanted to say hello to his good friend. And, of course, if you're a big fan of Marshall basketball, you know where I'm going with this. Because you know Mark Klein played at Wake Forest. If you didn't, now you know. So there's something you might not have known. He was at Wake Forest for 4 years, 83 to 87, if I remember. And he finished at Wake with 1,202 points. And he still's in the top 30 on their all-time list. So if you didn't remember that or know that, now you know. And so I got to speak to one of his friends, Mike Muse. So I have to give Klein a hello. So Mike Muse from Wake Forest wanted me to say hello and check in on Mark Klein. So if somebody is listening that's standing right next to the coach or is going to be standing next to him real soon, tell him that Mike Muse told me to tell him hi and see how he's doing. So that was fun. I mean, that was amazing, get to find out a lot of these stories because, Mike came and talked to us and he's like, okay, you guys are from West Virginia, right? And like, yeah, we're from Huntington, Marshall. Oh, you know my good friend Mark Klein. Yes, we definitely know Mark. And so that was exciting. Getting to be a part of the tour. I'll stay with basketball for a minute. I didn't get to go into the arena. If you were with me earlier, I didn't get to go into the arena, so I mentioned that. But I did go into their practice facility. And it's really a well-thought-out facility, and they've put it together. They've pieced it together. And Wake is trying to catch up. That's what they've been doing. They're trying to put their facilities together and make sure that it's smart, it's built to last, and it serves their student athletes. They have, get this now, they have a weight room dedicated to football. In the same complex, they have a weight room that is dedicated to Olympic sports. It's right next door to the football weight room. It's a fantastic facility. Then they have a weight room facility dedicated to baseball at the baseball park to make sure that they don't have to have those guys go back and forth. Basketball's got its own thing. I went into the basketball practice facility, the courts, and they have some interesting devices there. There is a camera system that was high above the rims, and it has facial recognition. And so after you have put in at least 500 shots, the system knows you. And you have to do it at both ends, too. You don't just do it at one end. You have to go to the other end and do it as well 500 times. So you got to get those reps in 500 times, at least be in the system. And this system will analyze you. It will track you, where your shots are coming from, if they're going in, if the arc, what the arc is. So if you're in a shooting slump and you were hitting them early and you're hitting them in practice, you know how Coach Dan Tony says, well, they're hitting them in practice. Well, now you could pull this system data up and say, okay, this is what you're doing when you're hitting them in practice, and you're missing now in the game, so go back to doing this. This is how you're getting the ball in the basket, by shooting it maybe with this arc. It's really fascinating, the system that they use. And I think you could translate that maybe in a smaller level, but they even have an NBA gallery, because where they're located, with NBA teams coming through, they've got an NBA gallery for the men. They also have a gallery for the women. And now the women's side, it looks a little bit like Gullickson. And that's not a knock on it. It's an older part, but they have a men's side and a women's side. Now, the women are always welcome to use the men's side, to use the technology. It's just cost prohibitive to go ahead and put all this technology in both sides. So they've got their own side. So before at Wake, tell me if you heard this before. At Wake, they had to figure out schedules because they had limited facilities. So they would come in off a late game, and they'd have to be back at the basketball complex for weight training because they shared it with the women at 6 a.m. They get home, get them in the bed, then they have to come back, and then they have to share everything because they didn't have what they needed, and so they had set times. Now they're a lot better with their schedule. They have everything they need. They can bring players in different groupings. You don't bring the entire team in. You bring them in groupings. They have a rim. They do NBA training, for the combine. They have all of that technology. Their sports medicine looked fantastic as well. I was in their rec room. They had all the fun stuff. They had an NBA jam machine, obviously. They had sleep pods. Their nutrition was fantastic, the way that it was like design, grab, and go. Everything was amazing. And in that facility as well, the practice field is right there, the grass and the turf for Wake, for those players. They can go indoor, and then if they don't want to practice indoor, they can go right over by just opening the door, go out, go to the grass field, go to the turf, and they can work outdoors. Of course, what is it with schools that don't have the end zone on both sides? That was the one thing. It was like, come on, this is Wake Forest. Give me both end zones. But it was just fantastic to see, and they have a locker room that looked like an NBA locker room. And they talked to us about what it means to be a student athlete at Wake Forest. If you were with me earlier, I mentioned that NIL deals. If you're coming to the Wake for NIL, you're going elsewhere. This is not where it happens. And they really push the student portion of student athlete, the value of what you get as a Wake Forest student athlete and what you will leave with, the value of that. Now, they're still going to help you follow your dreams, and they're there as a support system afterwards as well. So there were so many phenomenal things I saw, and it's beautiful, and they're really just starting to truly get to use it because of COVID. They didn't have an opportunity to really use it, but they didn't. Wake Forest, can you imagine Wake Forest? They're having their student athletes get up at really stupid hours because they didn't have what they needed in weight training, and now they've got this sports complex, and they're still adding more to it that allows them to do all these great things, keep these kids on campus. Because if you're a Wake student, until you're a senior, you got to live on campus. As a senior, you can go off campus, but imagine the convenience of having all of that in one spot. Now, of course, football's not going to actually go and practice day to day in the actual football stadium. No football team that has facilities is really going to bust them over. Baseball, on the other hand, you don't have like an indoor practice facility for baseball, but they do have this unique system where they're able to do, again, with the imaging, the 3D scans, and all the technology. And they're working on something for catching, but they can analyze pitching, the arm movement, what you need to do to be able to throw longer and to also throw correctly and to save your arm to be able to have a longer career. This is extremely fascinating to see this. And, of course, money is always an issue. They're trying to find ways to fund all this. But it was just to see this on a grander scale, but also see it in a way that Wake isn't going to be able just to go tear something out and redo it every few years. So if they build something, they build it with purpose and they build it to last. It was the impression I got. And so they do it nice. Their indoor facility was nice, and they have to use a specific style. It's got to look like campus. It has to use the style of brick that is on campus. And it's got to be a part of it. You have to work it in. It's got to fit. You can't just have these weird retro designs. I mean, the Henderson Center might have to have brick facades. I don't know, just to get it to pass muster here. But they have so many fantastic things that are going on, and it was just a treat to get a chance to go in and see that and to experience it. And they have a beautiful football stadium. Television doesn't do it justice. I'll say that. Our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. A texter writes in and says, first of all, this is directed to me. Congratulations on the award. It is very much deserved. I thank you for that. It's very appreciated that you would say that. Also, the texter says, thinking on the Zirkle hire. I think she is well qualified and will do a good job. However, I was wondering how important you thought it was for Christian Spears to make an easy goodwill hire to keep the fan base happy, since Christian is still relatively new and in the process of fundraising. And do you think it's easier to make that type of hire for a sport like softball? I think you got levels. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to bring someone in that's going to move the program forward. And the question is, what is it about Morgan Zirkle that Christian Spears believes that will move the program forward? We'll have that opportunity, I believe, on Friday to find out. So he's got to have something in his mind that says, all right, this is a home run. She's going to prove everyone that she's the next coach of softball, and we're going to move the program forward. Yeah, I don't think you just rubber stamp this. You have to have in your mind, I would hope so. I'm not an athletic director. I don't even play one on radio. But, yeah, you have to have in your mind, what am I looking for? What qualifies as the softball coach at Marshall University? And for Coach Zirkle now, she ticked all the right boxes enough to get the job. And she brings in a lot of goodwill. But are you looking for goodwill? I'm just asking. I'm posing this question. This isn't a commentary or criticism. This is a legitimate question for thought. What's more important, bringing someone that can generate goodwill, or do you bring someone in that might not have the goodwill because they're new, they're a fresh face, or they're outside the box hire, they're not in the Marshall family, and you're bringing them in, and they have a proven track record, and they can bring some success to Marshall, they can maintain, and they can maybe move the program forward. What's more important? But I'm going to presume in the minds of the people responsible for making this hire that she's got the goods and she brings the goodwill. So if she's got the goods and she has the goodwill, and that's what Christian Spears, Marshall's athletic director, is looking for, she's ticked off all the boxes. And so we'll find out Friday what that's about. But I would always wonder, is it a right time to elevate someone, Marshall player or not? You elevate someone from assistant to head coach, you bring someone in to take the job over, and is a job like softball at Marshall a little bit more prestige? Is that a higher prestige, a program that on the verge of winning the Sun Belt tournament, a program that could have an opportunity to stay the course and improve to maybe get into the NCAA tournament? Do you look at that program differently than you would look at a different sport at Marshall University? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's the number to be a part of today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I hope she does well. I absolutely hope that she does well. She comes in and she answers those questions that, yep, I'm qualified. I'm ready to go. I am the logical next step. She's not going to say it in those terms. I mean, maybe she does. Maybe she comes out and goes, Paul, welcome back. Congratulations. And what are you doing? I've got this. I've absolutely got this. People know me. I'm heard through and through. I'm ready to do this. Let's go. She might say that. And then she might go out and make that happen. So that's going to be the question. Is this going to be something that you keep an eye on because you want her to do well, and is she ready to be elevated to the next level as the head coach? She's got the job, but is she ready in your mind to take this job and to move it forward? Because I think with softball, anything that doesn't move it forward would be a big disappointment after the way that Megan Smith-Lyon built it. So that you're fighting that as well. You don't want to be the person after the person. You do, but if we look at it and say, no, you don't want to be the person after the person unless you're just a slam dunk, you're ready for that job. And she got the job, so she has something that Marshall Athletics says, this is the person for this job. I don't think you just open up Twitter one day and go, okay, who should I hire as a softball coach? Hey, you have the mayor of Barboursville, Chris Tatum, posting on social media that Morgan Zirkle should be the head coach. Okay, well, that's good enough for me. I'm not picking on Chris. He's a friend of mine. But if I'm checking job hiring decisions, I am going to cross-reference my friend, the mayor of Barboursville, Chris Tatum. I do love him. He's a great friend of mine. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Tuesday, June 27th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's edition. Sorry I wasn't with you yesterday for those of you who tuned in. I was a little busy hanging out with my friend Luke Creasy as we were picking up some wonderful, wonderful hardware And I'm proud of that guy. I don't want to talk about me as much at this moment. I want to talk about him, how proud of him. He's hardly been on the beat. He just rolled in, and he's been doing amazing things as the beat writer for the Herald-Dispatch and HD Media. So I wanted to just give a tip of the cap to him. He is off this week. There's no beat to cover for him. He will be in transit to go see Taylor Swift. Apparently, she is a performer that all the kids are talking about, and he is making a pilgrimage to go see Taylor Swift. So, shout out to Luke Creasy, the sports writer of the year from the National Sports Media Association, and a devout Swiftie. Our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Are you a Swiftie? I mean, it's a fair question. Are you a Swiftie? I'm curious. If we went down the coaching list at Marshall University, could we identify quickly which coach is a Swiftie? Could we do that? I feel like I want to have that conversation. I feel like I want to because I want to know, is Charles Huff a Swiftie? I don't know. I don't know if Coach is a Swiftie. What about Dan D'Antoni? Do you think he's a Swiftie? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that Coach Huff, Coach D'Antoni, not Swifties. What about, let me think about this for a second. What about Greg Beal, Marshall's baseball coach? You think Coach Beal is a Swiftie? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say Beal is a Swiftie. I need confirmation of that, but I think Beal is a Swiftie. Kim Stevens, Marshall's new women's basketball coach. By the way, she is hosting an event called Coffee with Kim on Wednesday, June 28th, 8 to 9 at the Market in downtown Huntington. It, as the release says, offers fans and those in the community a chance to grab some coffee and talk Marshall women's basketball with the new coach of the Thundering Herd. Somebody please ask her at this event and relay it back to me. Is she a Swiftie? I need to know. And then ask her if she knows if some of the other coaches are Swifties as well, because it seems like the Swifties gravitate towards each other. So I need to know. Ari Agnes, Marshall's volleyball coach, yes, Swiftie. Yeah, yes. No argument there, Swiftie. John Mercer, no. I don't think so. Tennis coach, no, not a Swiftie. Could be. I mean, seriously, he could be. But I'm going to say no. Chris Grassi. Do you think Chris Grassi is a Swiftie? A Taylor Swift fan? That's what they call themselves. It's like it's a cult of personality there. I think Chris Grassi is a Swiftie. But is Michael Swann, the women's coach, is Michael Swann a Swiftie? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'm not a Swiftie. More coming up. It's The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Tuesday, June 27th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We're still taking your text this hour. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've had a fun show so far. I just got back. For those of you who just joined me, I was not here yesterday. I just got back from North Carolina. And it was a fun trip. It was not a bad drive, actually. It actually felt like it took longer to go down to Winston-Salem to go to where I needed to be than come back. And that was, I think I started my day time-wise, the same time. It took me maybe an hour less to get back, so that felt good. But still, fresh back from North Carolina, which was great. I got to catch up with a few names I've mentioned them earlier. The Hurt Faithful, no names such as Wes Durham, Stan Cotton, great guys. Opportunities, of course, to always talk to someone that has that Marshall connection. You never know when you find someone that has that Marshall connection. I don't know what you can call it. It's sort of like a seven degrees of Marshall. I don't know. Always a Marshall connection, it feels like, or at least somewhere. But we'll get your text in. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You all think I just go home and, I don't pull that card out. No. I pull that card out every chance I get. It's sort of a thought experiment for me. Like, okay, how many goes do I have to have until I get a Marshall connection somewhere? And let me tell you, when I'm down there in Winston-Salem and I've got my name badge and it says Paul Swann, sportscaster, West Virginia sportscaster, and below it says state winner. So first of all, people are, hey, welcome, congratulations. So I'm like, thank you. Everyone's congratulating you. And then the next thing, West Virginia. Yeah, I'm out of Huntington, West Virginia. Great. What do you think about this Huggins thing? 3.5 hours away from me. Not directly my thing. I hate it for Coach. Oh, hey, they had to hire interim coach. Hey, wait, oh yeah. Again, didn't take my laptop, did not do any of that. But that's how people greeted me. And so that's why I was forcing the issue a little bit, just to get that Marshall connection going. Because the first thing that people heard in their mind when they saw, hey, you're from West Virginia. Yes, I am from West Virginia. What about that Huggins thing? What about that Huggins thing? Yeah, that Huggins thing is really interesting, as the tone of my voice changed. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can be a part of the program. I think that was the big one as far as answering questions, and then you redirect them. I met a gentleman the last night I was there who is a sports writer in Nevada, and I'm going to hopefully talk to him when the Raiders do the Greenbrier. I think that's what he said. The Raiders are going to do the Greenbrier. And the thing out of his mouth was, how about that Huggins? No. It's like, do you know Bob? No. It was, you know Mike Hamrick. Yes, I do. You know it, yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right? Nevada, Mike Hamrick. Former athletic director at Marshall. So, I love Mike Hamrick. And so when people bring his name up, this is what I talk about now. Because I always like Mike Hamrick. I didn't think Mike Hamrick liked me. Now, he's the athletic director of the university when I'm talking about him. And sometimes I might not think that his decisions were decisions I would make. But again, he's an athletic director. I'm not. So, or I would say, hey, why are you making this decision? What do you need to do here? Or why does Marshall do this? Those kind of questions. It's not directed at Mike. But I like Mike Hamrick. So when I get that, hey, Mike Hamrick's story. Yes, I do. And for the longest time, this guy hates me. Mike Hamrick hates me. I ran into Mike. I had to go to the dentist and I had to get some work done because COVID caught up with me. And so when everybody was shut down, it caught up with me, and I had to go get some stuff taken care of. I'm at the dentist office, going in, new guy. I haven't met him yet, but he's going to do the work. And lo and behold, coming out of the office with a puffy jaw is my good friend Mike Hamrick. And honestly, the guy was super nice to me and said, you were always nice to me. You were always good to me. You were always nice to me. And I thought to myself, okay, so Mike Hamrick doesn't hate me. He doesn't hate me. So that was my takeaway. But I still like sharing I keep some of the details, but I like sharing the fact that Mike got his teeth pulled, and then Mike was like, oh, this guy's great. You're going to love him. Actually, it was the right words for him to say because I had the same procedure Mike had on the same day. Just Mike had it a little earlier than me. But it's funny when I get, hey, you know Mike Hamrick? Of course I know Mike Hamrick. I got my teeth pulled the same day he did. But he's a good guy. So I don't have anything bad to say about Mike Hamrick, and I enjoy the fact that now I know for certain the guy doesn't hate me anymore. Or if he hated me, he's over it. If he didn't hate me, it's good to know that he didn't hate me. And with that said, we are out of time. We're going to be back tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I want to thank everyone here at Kindred Communications. I haven't had a chance to talk to too many people because they made an effort to make sure that I was taken care of, to go to Winston-Salem to do something that I had never been able to do before, never had an opportunity to do. And I wanted to say publicly, I appreciate everyone here at where I work because they made it so easy for me to go do that, to experience that, to go to Winston-Salem and get to go hang out with my guy, Luke Creasy. And I got a pretty sweet ride to go down to. It wasn't a limo, but it was a pretty sweet ride. So it is true. Mike Kirtner spends money. Have a great night, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington. This is your radio home for Pittsburgh Pirates baseball. ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.